As a mom of 5, my first thought is, girl, what do you do with all your time?
I made $50,000.
Shut up.
Off an apartment I didn't own. House hacked with Airbnb, which is still, I think, the best thing that you can do.
My mom regularly tells me, because she works for me, she's like, you're not employable. You couldn't work for anybody at this point.
I think the best, if you're gonna do midterm, is to have a market that you can legally short-term as well, and then you hybrid.
And I think people sometimes forget that syndication is a risk.
Yeah.
And if you make the right decisions, it's a good risk, but it doesn't always end up that way.
I'm here sharing inspiring stories about fearless entrepreneurial women to help encourage you to live your life unapologetically. I'm your host, Heather Blankenship. Welcome to the Unapologetically Me podcast.
In today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Zeona McIntyre. We're going to be talking about a form of house hacking that I have never heard of, and it is truly the highest way to maximize your cash flow compared to any other strategy I've ever heard. So you do not want to miss it. Let's dive in. Zeona, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
So you are known for Midterm rentals because you wrote a book, you co-authored a book on 30-day stays. But what's something that is really interesting about you that I just found out is you didn't really have a job before real estate investing. Most people have like this previous career, right?
Yeah.
A first life. And real estate investing is their second life. But you kind of started out of college.
Yeah.
What caused you to...
in college as I started.
I love that. So what caused you to not take the traditional route of like going to the job fair and getting your first job and then progressing into real estate?
Well, kind of towards the end of my college career, I did semester at sea. So have you heard about that?
I have.
Okay, so you're on a boat, you go around the world, and it's your study abroad. And when I got back from that, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to go work in a...
Tell people what you do on the boat.
Oh, you take classes. It's like a university
floating college.
Yeah, totally.
How cool is that?
And every stop you go to gets kind of like worked into the curriculum. So if you're learning like architecture, you would learn like architecture of, Vietnam and then India or wherever you're going next. So it was an incredible experience. But after that, I was like, oh, I'm supposed to work in a cubicle now? Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I kind of decided that I wasn't going to do what I was studying and instead quit my job and went and became a tour guide. So I guess I've just been a non-traditional kind of gal.
So I don't think most college students, especially then, knew that was an option. How did you know, oh, I can go buy real estate? How did you have the money to do that? Or how did you kind of figure out that option?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate that Airbnb came around, and that was really just like an easy gateway. So I heard about Airbnb from a friend of mine who was living in New York City.
And what year is this?
2012. Well, he was telling me about it in 2011. It took me like a year to get on the board.
Okay.
But he heard about it because when you live in the cities, you hear about things first. And then he was like, well, I am feeling burned out. I want to just rent my apartment and go travel. And he's like, I'm stuck in this lease, but I heard about this Airbnb thing.
And that's kind of how Airbnb started, right? It was people renting out their spaces. It wasn't this whole investing thing.
Exactly. And so he tried it, and his 3 months away turned into an entire year because he was living off of this apartment. And at the end, he was like, I made $50,000.
Shut up.
Off an apartment I didn't own. And back then,
so $50,000, which wasn't a thing back then.
Totally. And back then, $50,000 was like a starting tech salary, which was like, we'd never seen that much money ever.
Right.
It was very exciting.
And you have no other bills at that age, right? You haven't.
Yeah, you're eating like ramen.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cool. I had a 2-bedroom apartment I was living in. It was already all furnished with my stuff, and I was renting a room to a roommate. And once she moved out, I was just like, okay, I've got all the furniture. I've got sheets and towels. Like, if I don't like it, I just stop doing it. So that was kind of my gateway.
So you kind of house hacked.
Oh yeah, house hacked with Airbnb, which is still, I think, the best thing that you can do with real estate.
I think anytime you anybody who's ever house hacked, it's like a sickness. Because then when you...
It is a sickness.
Because no matter how much money you make, you're like, I don't want to pay that whole bill. I could like rent out the space. Or because I have my house in Tennessee is on a couple acres, and like we talked, I have 5 kids. So like house hacking isn't like ideal with that many children.
Sure.
But I have a 5-car garage on the corner of the property with an apartment in there. that
Nice.
I don't want to have people living with anymore. So my property management office runs out of that. So that's become my like elevated version of house hacking. But in the beginning, I had people living there.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon Turner's still house hacking in like a $4 million house.
Exactly.
It's just like, you got all
Once you
these
do
extra
it,
units.
like
Why
everything
not?
you look at, you're like, how could I house hack this and eliminate
How could I live for free?
Because the reality is, if we have to pay ourselves to pay for that, we then have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah, I had never thought of it that way. I've just always like, how can everything pay for itself? I don't want to pay for you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you start house hacking your 2-bedroom apartment through Airbnb.
Yeah. And then I knew I needed to get more apartments. After a while, it was working so well.
And were you buying these or renting them?
Just renting. Yeah. And I mean, going so well, when I look back at the numbers, it's like, it's ridiculous. I was just basically covering my rent payment, but I thought like, this is so cool. I don't need to work. I can just like clean the apartment here and there and like, that's it. So I went and got another apartment, and for like 2 years I was living between 2 apartments. Whatever wasn't rented is where I would live. And I had just a little rolly suitcase and I'd go back and forth, or I'd travel.
Okay, so I want to
Yeah.
point something out that most people aren't willing to admit. So I bought my first real estate at 26. I'm 41 now. So I have not had like a job
Yeah.
basically ever, right? I
Yeah.
mean, sure, I had them
Me
when I was
neither.
young, but like it's been so long. My mom regularly tells me, because she works for me, she's like, you're not employable. You couldn't work for anybody at this point.
Entrepreneurs are not employable.
We are not employable. Like we
Yes.
do not have the like personality, the ability to follow instructions
No, I'm the
from someone
worst.
else. Like we are not employable anymore.
Yeah.
It's like something we do to ourselves.
Yes. I've actually been fired from too many jobs. So.
Listen, y'all, I know today's episode is inspiring, but inspiration alone will never carry us to our ultimate goals. That's why I started the Society of Entrepreneurial Women. It's a mastermind for high-performing female investors and entrepreneurs who are living their lives unapologetically. In a world where most people don't get us, or they try to keep us confined in a small box, the Society exists to turn off the brakes and set you free. We have weekly calls covering investing, wealth building, health, relationships, family, and a whole lot more. We have small tribes to hold each other accountable to our goals. We have in-person, ladies-only retreats to disconnect and drive each other towards our dreams. And most importantly, this is a community where you can be unapologetically you. Celebrate your wins, scream your successes from the top of the rooftop, become best friends with women who get you. We're 3 years in, and I can honestly say my best friends today are all from the Society. Click the link in the show notes to learn more.
Yeah.
So let's back up to talking about the Airbnb. Do you think it's just as easy for someone to get into Airbnb and make money off of their rental as it used to be?
It is easy if you're house hacking, and I think that's still a very viable way to go about it. But if you're just going and buying a short-term rental, they require so much more now. There's just a lot of competition. And so the ones that do the best are the ones that are the flashiest. And
They're very active investments.
they're very active, and they're super different. Like you almost have to like completely change the house to a point where if you just went to sell it to a normal buyer, they wouldn't even want it.
Yeah.
It's a caricature of a house now.
Yes.
And,
Which is cool to go on vacation in, but you don't want to live in it every day.
Totally, which always kind of makes me feel a little like, oh, okay. And then what are you going to do with this house after? 200K of like random furniture and mural walls and yeah.
So we think Airbnb still work. It's just in a different way.
Yeah, no, they definitely work. It's just only some of them do.
Talk us through that.
Yeah, I think that the super Airbnbs, like ones that sleep like 16 plus people, the ones that people are going to invest a bunch of money into theming out, that have tons of amenities like pickleball courts and putt-putt greens and all that kind of stuff, sure, those can work really well. But if you're just saying, I'm going to buy a 2-bedroom cabin in the Smokies, yeah, you and 600 million other people,
Yeah.
like good luck.
And those markets have shifted a lot.
Yeah, they're very saturated. And I mean, certain ones work, the ones that are closest into town with the best location. But the competition's fierce.
So how, somebody who's like, I don't care, I love traveling. This is how I'm going to marry my passion and my investment.
Yeah.
How would you advise them so that they could do this successfully?
I mean, I'd house hack for sure. because that's just something that you can always live for free, and that helps you to be able to travel.
Talk through some great ways to house hack with Airbnbs.
Having a basement apartment, or also, I'll tell you about how my husband and I do it. So we live in a 3-bedroom townhome, and we have, jobs where we can work from anywhere. And so we've decided that we would do a bunch of pet sitting. So we have an app that's free, and you go and stay at people's houses for free. And we stay in the bougiest houses I can find. And then we rent our house out. And doing that allows us to not pay a mortgage, basically.
So you literally put your house on Airbnb.
Yep.
And when someone rents it, you're like, let me go pick up a pet sitting job. And you both leave and go pet sitting.
We usually find the pets at first. But yes, okay, so I live in Colorado. My husband loves to snowboard, and we could drive 2 hours and then drive 2 hours home, or we could spend 2 weeks there. And so we just go and stay in the mountains in these gorgeous chalets, and then people are paying for our house. So there's so many
This is like the ultimate
ways to do it. Yeah.
Because you traditionally think of it as, like you said, the basement apartment, the
Yes.
ADU in the back,
Yeah.
the apartment over the garage, some of those types of ways. Or you're renting out your bedrooms like we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the more traditional ways. That is definitely the most creative house hack version I've heard.
Well, I've been at this a while, so I figured it out. Yeah.
Okay, so how did you go from starting out with short-term rentals to being the person who writes a book on midterm rentals?
Oh, man. Well, midterm rentals for me started around COVID. And so I had heard about it earlier. I had some friends that were doing it in Maui, where I grew up. And they were having a lot of success with nurses there, because who doesn't want to be a travel nurse in Maui? So that was something they had split up their house, and they had 3 or 4 little units, and they were renting it to nurses. So I'd known about it for a long time. But then when COVID happened, in about a week, all of my calendars completely emptied. And I was completely living off of my Airbnbs. So I freaked out, and I'm going
quick.
Yes, I'm not going to sit with a bunch of empty units. Come on. So I'm going, okay, wait, what did my friend tell me about these nurse rentals? How do I figure this out? And all of my places, well, I have a couple in town, but most of them are far away. They're all states away. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to do showings? How am I for these longer term stays?
Yeah.
And I just figured it out. I asked my friend a little bit. I researched Furnish Finder. I was back then posting in Facebook groups, and I just started getting inquiries.
And are you still using that midterm rental method with some of your rentals?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's my primary.
I was going to say, are you liking that better than short-term now?
I do. I like them both. I think the best, if you're going to do midterm, is to have a market that you can legally short-term as well, and then you hybrid. You do a little bit of both.
So I've always been curious, when you hybrid, how do you control your calendar so that you don't shoot yourself in the foot with some of that?
Yeah, so I prioritize midterm because I just find it easier. And so everything is 30-day minimum. And then once I get some gap, if I'm like, oh, okay, there's a booking here, there's a booking there,
for the
then I just make it a 2-night minimum and then just get all that snapped up. But short-term rentals do operate in a much more automated way. And I think that's why people like them so much. Midterm rentals require leases and background checking.
Talk me through that, because I think most people think, I'll put it on Airbnb, change it to a 30-day stay. Maybe I put it on Furnish Finder. Talk us through those differences, like leases, and are you doing background checks? Are you getting deposits? Some of those things we don't do with short-term rentals.
Yeah, so you can just put it on Airbnb, and it is the best when it does book on Airbnb. And Airbnb's priority is actually shorter stays. So when you have 30-day plus, you don't show up as high in searches, and you get dinged a little bit. So it doesn't always work as well as you'd want it to. So to have something perfect that you've got a 30-day stay, and then there's going to be another Airbnb that's going to perfectly match up that longer stay, it doesn't usually happen that way. So we have to piece it together with Zillow and Furnish Finder and maybe insurance bookings, whatever you can find. And in that, if it's not Airbnb, you need to vet these guests, because they're Jenny from the neighborhood. You have no idea who that person is, right? And so we do a background check, and it would be great to, call landlords and do all those things. So I have an assistant, but she's definitely dropped the ball on this before. We had to do an eviction recently. That
on
was
a midterm rental? Oh,
yes,
man.
it was so sad. People, why do we do this? Anyway, so then you have to do the lease, which I don't know why Airbnb doesn't just populate a lease as the next screen up and then you go on.
That would be the most intuitive thing to do, right?
nobody's doing that yet. So if someone wants to develop something, go for it.
And so you're taking a deposit?
Yeah, we take a deposit. And so, so there's some of that where you have to collect something and then you have to give it back to them. So it's not as quick and easy and automated.
And since it's your primary now, where do you find the most of your leads coming from?
Airbnb still.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I hear people talk about, even in your book, you talk about building relationships with whether it's hospitals or things like that. Is that still a thing now that COVID has passed? Do we still have as many travel nurses, as many people displaced from homes, things like that?
We don't have as many travel nurses, but there is a lot of relocation that's happening. So I was talking to Furnish Finder the other day. We're so lucky that we have relationships with them directly, and so they'll give us data. And so they were preparing us for our talk coming up, and they said that their biggest sector is relocation. There's a lot of people that are using their site now, and they've had huge growth.
We're literally doing that right now. We're in the middle of selling our house, and with 5 kids, I don't want to have to get it ready for showings. Like, that just sounds like a nightmare. So we've moved to we did a 6-week stay in what's normally a short-term rental, but Orlando's market is so oversaturated. Mm-hmm. We moved up to Orlando, booked it for 6 weeks. But I tried Furnish Finder, and I couldn't get any of the people to respond to me. I waited.
Really?
Yes.
Amazing.
And then I sent it through the app. I went to texting them. Finally, a couple of them texted me back, but I'm like, dude, this is too much work. I'm going through Airbnb because this is starting to feel shady to me.
That's great feedback for them. I feel like you should tell Furnish Finder to that. Yeah.
They need
a better system.
Yes. I don't know if it's the way their messages go through or the people aren't getting enough messages, so they're not paying attention to it. Whatever it is, I'm like, I'm just going to go through Airbnb.
Yeah. Well, and that's why.
Yeah. Okay, so Furnish Finder and Airbnb are still your biggest resources for that. Mm-hmm. So talk to me about the importance of building those other relationships.
So I actually haven't done that, and it's because I'm lazy. Let's be honest.
But remember how when you're forced, we talked about earlier, you're forced to find a solution. If the other thing's working, you're not lazy. You just haven't been forced to find a solution.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story. So I have this house in Colorado Springs. We just had an eviction. The eviction created a whole thing with our they messed up our carpet. Then we got some Airbnb guests, got a bad review. Airbnb decided they're going to take our listing down.
Shut up.
And Airbnb is that powerful that we've decided we're going to sell this house. We're not going to go through the effort of calling around and making all the relationships. There are people like Jesse Vasquez that have just absolutely killed in that. Yeah. And if you are the type of person that you're willing to do all the cold calling and build the relationships and nurture those, 110% that works.
Okay, so we should stop and talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I think
I'm not that person.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And I know that. I know that, right?
First of all, it's great to acknowledge that. Yes. I'm not that person either.
Okay.
I do not want to be having those hard conversations.
Yeah. Not for one house anyway.
Following up with them. That's not the skill set that I have.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really important that because there's so much advice, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got some advice. You have to do it this way. This is the best way. And there are a million different ways to make money in real estate.
Yes.
And so finding those that kind of play to your strengths is what's going to make you successful and not burn out. Because if you had to do that cold calling and relationship building and all
real
of that,
estate. Yeah, it'd be done.
You wouldn't stick with it.
Totally.
And this game is staying with it long enough to be successful.
Totally.
And so finding those things that actually work with your personality and your skills are what's going to keep you successful. So I love that you've even decided to sell the house. You're like, this is not me. I don't want to do this.
No, and I have a bunch of equity in that house. That money can make so much more money for me. It's not worth my time.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to put it in the syndications. Girl, I like to do passive now. That's what's up.
It's so funny how you progress to looking for stuff that's...
It's funny. There is an arc, and I think a lot of us do end up in an area where they're like, okay,
well, I think
cool.
though in that process of that arc, you have to learn enough things to make a good decision for when you invest in a syndication.
Yes.
And you get the skills to figure that out.
Yeah,
when you do that. You also meet a lot of people and make a lot of relationships to make those decisions.
Yeah.
Instead of blindly being like, oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, and when I started, I had, I remember when I got my second apartment, I had to borrow $4,000 from my dad. I had no money to do anything. And so now when it's it's a minimum of $100,000 or $50,000 to get into these deals, to me, that's nothing cool. Here we go. But you don't start there.
Right.
And so it's okay that you do these
Yeah,
scrappy
that
things
50 grand
to get
is
there.
a big risk for you when you're first starting.
Oh my gosh, it's everything. Yeah.
And I think people sometimes forget that syndication is a risk.
Yeah.
And if you make the right decisions, it's a good risk, but it doesn't always end up that way.
Yeah.
That's why you gotta be accredited.
That doesn't save you.
No, but it saves them. It's implying that you should have known better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to change gears a little bit. So you have made the decision that you and your husband don't want to have kids.
Okay, yes, that's where we're going.
Yes, we are. Because as a mom of 5,
Yeah.
my first thought is, girl, what do you do with all your time? Because for me, because when I asked you this earlier, you're like, I have hobbies. I'm like, my hobby is feeding my kids.
Yeah.
So what made you make that decision? And what are you doing with your time?
Well, I just never wanted it enough. I was talking actually with Kathy Fedke.
She was my last guest.
Okay, great. I was
Yep.
talking with her daughter, Krista, and
Yeah.
she's like beautiful and just got engaged, and she's
Yes.
like, probably 28. I don't know how old she is, but she's just like itching to have children, and you could just see it's like everything she's ever wanted in her life. And I'm like, I don't have that. And I think that's what makes incredible parents. And I think probably 50% of people that have kids don't have that either, and maybe didn't need to be parents. It depends, but I think that if I was going to do it, I wanted to be everything. And I have nephews, and I want to live in community where there are children around, and I can be like a bonus adult to give some relief. And so, yeah, that's sort of my approach.
So what are you doing with your time? Because you get to sleep, you get to shower.
Yeah,
alone.
I know. Building a business, writing books. I don't know. Yeah, it's like I have all these houses. How does anyone have time for children? Everything needs things from me. But yeah, I'm writing a second book now. I have hobbies. I do a lot in my community. I have a lot of friendships. And I don't know what I do with my time.
We need to time audit you and figure out where everything's going.
You're welcome to. Come on over.
So you mentioned you're writing a second book. What's the next topic?
It's on creative financing.
Okay, I love that. That's one of the biggest questions we get is like, I grasp the concept of it, but I have no clue how to get started. Like, I don't have any rich family members to raise the money. I don't know how to ask people for sub 2. What does that even mean? Is it legal? What if they went bankrupt, right? There's so many versions of creative finance.
Yeah.
So what kind of angle are you taking with that? Because that's a big world to cover, right?
It is a big world.
It feels like a blanket term, actually.
Totally. Well, I structured the book in 2 sections. I did kind of like 8 different types of creative finance, like maybe the most common types that people would see. And then the second half is really like contract to close, who do you need on your team, how do you use it as an agent, because I'm an agent.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of the secret sauce for me is I'm not really acquiring properties anymore. If I saw something super great, maybe I would, but mostly I'm in a stage where I want to sell my properties, put it into passive investments.
So let's stop and talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that agent piece is one of the most important, because I'm in the middle of buying a business, and a business backed by real estate. And a lot of every deal that they've sent me, the numbers do not match the price they want, right? And they're like, yeah, but you could work harder and do these different things. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not going to pay for that, right? I'm going to build that part. So I'm like, you're not financeable with the numbers that you have. So has your seller considered seller financing? Because that's the only way you're going to get something like this. And so do you have some advice to buyers on how to approach that topic with an agent?
Interesting. Well, so, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what angle you're coming from. Like, if you're buying a business, it's a little bit different. But if you're just saying, like, I just want to buy a short-term rental and it's listed on the market.
An RV park or a wedding venue or a motel, they're still active businesses.
Yeah.
They have profit and loss statements, but they're also still real estate. So you can either value them by the ground in the building they've got, or you can value them based off the profit and loss statement, their net operating income.
Yeah.
And so these agents, they're trying to put this big price tag on them, probably because that's what the seller wants to sell them for.
Yeah.
But the numbers don't match, because then we got a cap rate, right? And if you want to go through SBA lending, you've got to prove that they make the money for this evaluation. But they don't. So as a buyer of something like that, if I've got to go get a loan for, let's call it $5 million, and I'm going to get a 9 or 10% interest rate from, let's use some different numbers, let's call the property $3 million. I've got to go get a 9 or 10% interest rate from the SBA to buy this real estate, this business backed by real estate. I'm going to end up paying about $3 million in interest. So I'm at $6 million if I keep it for the life of the loan. However, if they want their $5 million asking price, if they will give it to me at 0% interest, 2% interest, I am paying less than if I had paid $3 million and gotten a loan.
Yeah, so just make an offer with the terms you want.
But how do you even get the agent to talk them through that? Because a lot of the times the agents are so defensive about the idea of that they won't even have the conversation with you.
It's true. I mean, I'd say that's the worst part, is dealing with agents. And so even as an agent myself, I would say that, because agents often won't admit that they don't know. And instead of saying that they don't know and keeping an open mind and trying to learn, they would just say no. And they'll really be like the block.
Correct.
And that person may not even know that an offer's coming in. The best thing you can do is put something in writing, because they legally have to present all offers.
So would you spell that out in an offer, since you know your agent won't be able to?
Yeah.
Maybe write a letter with the offer explaining it to the owner?
Like a letter of intent, or just like a whole description with the offer attached is how I would probably approach it. But it is tricky with agents in the middle. And usually I don't really go that route with finding properties if I can help it. I do sometimes, but they're tricky.
So when you're talking through the creative finance in the book that you're writing,
Yeah.
what are some of your top tips?
Top tips? That's so broad. I mean, I sell primarily subject to. So I talk to people a lot about doing that. I think that method is really viable right now, because I think I saw a statistic that 90% of the mortgages are under 3%.
Wow.
So there are a lot of people sitting on these really exciting
a lot of people
mortgages.
hear the word sub to a lot, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple influencers that are really popular with that. So for those who are like, I hear the word, but I don't even know what that means, talk us through from the beginning.
So subject to is basically where a home has a lien on it, which is a mortgage. And when you go and buy this home, usually the title company says, these are all the liens and they have to be paid off.
Right.
But you can say, actually, I'll keep that one. And so if the seller's okay with it and you're okay with it, that can just stay attached to the home. It doesn't have to go in your name, but you're deciding you're going to pay the mortgage. And so that's kind of how that works.
And so how do you have security, and how does the seller have security then?
I mean, you have more security as the person on the deed. So that's like, I guess a tip that you can remember is when you're looking at all the different creative finance strategies, sometimes the deed doesn't move to the buyer, sometimes it does. Whoever holds the deed has the most security. So for a seller, basically, if you decide you're not going to pay them, they have to foreclose on you. And it's not the worst process in the world. It depends on the state, but it's still a process. So people need to know that that's kind of their worst case scenario. Yeah.
That sounds like a really worst case scenario.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but I mean, it's not pleasant. I had to go through one. So
talk us through the benefit of a subject to deal like this, and how would you find that?
So the benefit for the buyer, there's benefits on both sides, which is what's cool. And I really try to come together and make win-wins. But the benefit for the buyer is usually a lower interest rate, sometimes like...
Because you're assuming the interest rate that they had.
Yes. And lower down. Like when I'm working on a deal, it's usually 5 to 10% down because I've got to get paid. But some people take over a house with nothing because that person might not have equity. And so they're just saying, get me out of this mortgage. And they're like, sure, I'll take it. Actually was talking to someone at breakfast about that. So yeah, those happen a lot. And then you can close really quickly. So if somebody's trying to buy a home for tax benefits, like this time of year, which I'm not going to say because this is evergreen content. But basically, yeah, they can do it right under the gun if they need to. You can close it like cash. It can be in 10 days. So that works out well for buyers too. For sellers, they can usually get a higher price. And they can also keep their equity invested. And so if they've got a bunch of equity and they say, okay, on my equity, it's 8%, but on my mortgage, you can have this 3% loan. That's great. Then
So
they're
meaning
making
they can
checks
have two
every month.
loans.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it can get complicated. But that's what I like about it is like we were talking about the arc of real estate. If I still was just doing short-term rentals, I would be bored AF.
Yeah.
But it's like I got to do midterm rentals, and then I got to be an agent, and then I got to do creative financing, and it keeps you going. There's so much to learn. Now syndications.
Well, I think as entrepreneurs, our brains are like all over the place. And if you have too much shiny object syndrome kind of going on, you can't be successful. You got to figure out how to reel it in a little bit.
That's where my time goes.
You got to reel it in a little bit, but if you can learn to like grow on these things, you still get to learn some new stuff and feel like you're getting a new challenge. Only it's not quite as risky because you already have some of the transferable skills.
Yeah.
So for somebody who wants to try this method, where could they find deals like this?
Well, I mean, the easiest way is you can go on Zillow and the keywords, and you can be like, subject to. You'd be surprised how many deals show up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How easy is that?
Assumptions. You can search lease option, seller financing.
Okay.
So those ones are great because those agents already are on board.
Yes. So there's no talking them into it.
Yeah.
This also sounds like the way you should do your first one.
Yeah. Or come to someone like me who, I mean, I kind of work as like a wholesaler / agent. And so I sell short-term rentals nationwide, and people that just want to do a creative finance deal.
So there's essentially
they can
brokers
come
for
to
what
me.
you're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of us
That's
out
good
there.
To know.
Yeah,
Okay. I love that.
different degrees of shadiness. But
Yes.
there's a lot of us.
Okay, that's a really great way to word that because sometimes you're not quite sure what you're getting into.
Ladies, it's time to redefine the conference experience with the Society of Entrepreneurial Women Retreats. Step inside a world tailored for women just like you, where you can lead, learn, and unwind in style. Our retreats offer everything from insightful investing sessions to fun activities like salsa dancing, boat cruises, food tours, and so much more, ensuring you come back not just inspired, but truly refreshed. Join a community that celebrates you wholly and supports your every endeavor. Ready for a retreat that changes the game? Visit the link in our show notes and find out how you can be part of this exclusive experience.
And so talk to me about the downfalls of that because I feel like it gets like most of the people who talk about it only tell you the amazing sides to subject to. You get this 3% interest rate. You're helping out someone who needs to get rid of a property. But there's pros and cons to everything. What's the downside of going with a subject to deal?
I'd say the downside is the relationship. I mean, that can also be something that's beautiful. I have a friend who wrote a book called Bank on Your Neighbor, and she talks all about how you can keep the money in the neighborhood rather than going to Wall Street. Like, yes, let's all build each other up.
I love that.
And the relationship can be the downfall too of like, I'm in bed with this person for 5 years. Even if it's just that my name's on their mortgage, what if they, default? What if they can't pay for 3 months? What if it goes into a foreclosure? Like, this is stuff that affects my credit now, right? So there can be things there that can be a little bit of a rub when you're dealing with people.
And so is that why you mainly need someone who's distressed in some way?
I would prefer someone who's not distressed because, like, what is that going to come with? A whole bag of tricks.
Okay, so
probably.
that's where my mindset goes with that. Because some of the other influencers that do this say, I'm only looking for somebody who's distressed.
Totally.
So then you start thinking down this rabbit hole we just talked about.
Yeah.
So talk me through why you prefer someone who's not.
I like working with investors. I find that, maybe there's just a little less risk. It's like you're kind of coming from the same language and same playing field. Right. So a lot of times I'll like find an investor that maybe didn't do as well with their short-term rental as they wanted to. And then they're going to sell to someone who can do better with it. And so often that's someone either looking for a tax deduction, they might be like a lawyer or a doctor, and so they've got a big income to back up if they couldn't make it work. Or it's an investor like, I have 5 other units in this town, I know how to do this, I'm going to make it better than you did. And so that's like kind of like on the same level, and this is like a nice above board thing. If you find someone who's really distressed, they might have been just like having a bankruptcy, they might not quite understand what's happening with the contract, they might come back to you later and say like you took advantage of them.
Yeah.
There could be a lot of weird, power dynamics. And so I think that feels messier. It's like the same reason why I don't want like C-class, D-class units. Mm-hmm. It's just there's a lot of trouble that can happen that I just don't want.
I can see that.
Yeah.
So what's something, whether it's personal or business-wise, that you're working on right now that you're excited about?
Well, I mean, I want to get this book out in the world. That's like, it's like giving birth.
It is. It is
really
so much freaking work.
It is so much work.
It's longer and less painful, but you still have the emotional roller coaster that goes with it.
Well, yeah, and it's like, I know this thing is here and I want everybody to have it. So,
Are you going to self-publish or use a publisher this time?
I'm self-publishing this time.
Okay.
And I'm scared about it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, it's a lot more involved than I thought it would be. Everybody's like, oh, it's easy, here you
Did
go.
you use the company that does the self-publishing, or are you truly like figuring it all out?
No, I'm using the company, but they're pretty hands-off. They're like,
okay.
Here's how you do it.
Because they sure
See you
make
later.
it sound like they're really hands-on. Said everyone that does, yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's my
Okay.
problem. Everybody's like, oh, it's easy. Go ahead and do it. So anyway, I have a lot of respect now for Bigger Pockets and all that they did for our books. And I wanted to try to actually make money on this book.
I was going to say, I don't think most people realize when we publish with Bigger Pockets, we basically don't get paid.
I mean, made some money, but
yeah.
I mean, I have friends that I have a friend. She self-published 2 books. She was making like 20 grand a month.
What?
I know. I think I've probably made like, I don't know, like sometimes I get these checks for like $300 that I'm like, cool, what am I going to do with that?
Yes. But I think the difference is you've got to decide, do you want the money or do you want the name recognition?
Yeah.
And if you have other things going, being the person that is the authority in that thing, Bigger Pockets gives that to you. And they obviously play on that, right? That's why they can make the contracts they make with us.
I love Bigger Pockets, and yes.
And I don't mean that mean the
make
Bigger
my
Pockets.
money.
I'm here speaking just like you are, so I love them as well. But we get the authority.
Yeah.
They get the money.
Yeah.
That's the deal. It's kind of like when the old man marries the really hot young girl. Like, she has to have sex with him, and he needs to be willing to have a baby with her. And she is expensive. This is the deal they have made.
Okay, great. I love that you're saying that here in Vegas. You're like, okay, I see this example every day.
This is the deal they have made. He spends a lot of money. She has to sleep with the old man. This is the deal they have made. So that's kind of the deal we made. We get the recognition, they get the money.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to try something new, and I have no idea how it's going to work out. So here we go.
Okay, so when you're self-publishing, does that mean you will mainly sell on Amazon, or you're going to have a website? Talk me through that.
Yeah, Amazon, I think it goes in all the places. I think it's just kind of like there are networks, I guess. I haven't gotten to this part, obviously.
Okay.
I'm still in the editing stage, but the book is done, so that's
Which I think
good.
people don't. I think it took me 2 years, start to finish, between like writing something.
Thank you for saying that. It makes me feel so much
right?
better.
Because people are like, I'm writing a book. It's going to come out next week. You're like, how?
How?
And maybe
This
it's
one
because I'm
took me
also
a
not
year.
naturally a writer, but
Yeah.
it from like the day I'm like, I'm going to write a book, and I started, not like the idea, but like started, like I built out, and
Sitting
everybody has a
down.
different method, right? I've heard Brandon talk about how he does his, Brandon Turner, and he's
just
amazing.
He
right?
sleeps a book. It just like comes
He's
out
amazing,
of him.
right?
Yeah.
The only way I could work it through was I built out an outline, and then like I'm like, what all do I want to cover? And then I'm like, let's rearrange this and make it in a good order, and then like started that way, right? But so from the time I started, let's make an outline, to the time Bigger Pockets was like, you can buy Heather's book, was 2 years.
Yeah.
So I don't think people realize the length of time it takes to publish a book. Because when everybody's like, I want to write a book, I'm like, good for you.
I mean, I think it's a beautiful experience. It brings up all your demons. It's like, it's very confronting.
You learn what you're not good at.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's healing.
Well, I think you should also...
Everyone should do it if they want to.
I agree with that. And I think you should treat it the same way you do a business. There's no shame in like, you're not good at this part, so let's hire someone to help you. Yeah. For example, I suck at spelling. I grew up in Mississippi. Mississippi school system is...
Hawaii school system.
Not amazing, right? So I had to have someone come back in behind me, check my spelling and grammar and all of those kinds of things before I even went to like, hey, Bigger Pockets, will you publish my book? Right? And so I feel like some people, probably because the ghostwriter stuff, right? There's the, someone else totally wrote your book, right? That's the whole, like, that's the big version of like, outsource it. But when there's no shame in like, I'm not good at this part, hire that part out.
Yeah.
Like you can get someone to help you with that part.
Yeah.
So where are you in this stage?
Well, so the book's written, and then there's 5 rounds of editing. So I'm in round 2, and I'm being maybe like a little too over the top, where I'm like rereading the book a second time because I want like the flow to be right. And so I'm like individually tweaking sentences like a little psycho. I should probably just like let the editor do it and be done. So that is my fault.
That's like a personality thing.
Yeah.
That's the demons you're talking about coming out?
Oh, I'm full of demons.
Okay, so what happens after the 5 rounds?
Well, I guess the launch stuff. So like, I don't fully know. I have my assistants helping me. And so we've done kind of like some comparison research for market research stuff. I don't know. We're going to have a landing page come up soon where people can be like on the wait list. And then I'm going to do a bajillion podcasts. I don't know. We're going to see. You put some stuff in Amazon and go.
I'll ask you again in a few months.
Yeah, great.
We'll do a follow-up to this and be like, well, how did you actually do that?
Yeah, okay, well, self-publishing is doing like, they're doing the book design too.
Okay.
So that will, like, I don't think people know this either. Like, there's a cover that gets designed, but also inside the book, if there's like little graphs and like how things are laid out, that is designed.
Yes.
So that will have to happen.
There's a term for that too, and I can't remember the name of it.
Book design?
Nope. There's a term for it. Like,
Okay,
because there's all these different people you hire for that, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Well, thanks for doing this with me today. This is fun.
Oh, I had fun.
Remember, authenticity is your superpower. Stay unapologetically yourself, and let's continue embracing our uniqueness together. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss the next episode.